an independent young woman and aspiring novelist, a large inheritance, a secretive new husband, a crumbling English mansion full of ghosts. This isn't a book review channel, so I'm not telling you about Anne Radcliffe's latest work. So that means I must have watched 2015's Crimson Peak from director Guillermo del Toro. My name's Matt Eddy, and this is $2 Horror. Hello YouTube. This month I watched Guillermo. I have a lot of trouble with that name for some reason. It's got those two L's in it that are silent, and something in my brain is just like hyper focused on not saying the L's. I'm like, don't say the L's, don't say the L's, and so I mess it up every time. I watched Del Toro's Crimson Peak.
My child, when the time comes, beware of Crimson Peak.
To briefly summarize, young Edith Cushing is an aspiring novelist, and she's living in bustling Buffalo, New York. Her father is her primary caretaker. We have a scene as Edith, as a very young child, getting a ghostly visitation from her dead mother, who's forewarning her, beware of Crimson Peak. Edith is now an adult, 24 years old. She's just had her manuscript rejected because they didn't want a ghost story, even though she says this.
Oh, it's not. It's more story with a ghost in it.
Mm-hmm.
The ghost is just a metaphor.
A metaphor?
For the past.
Which is a big nod to the viewer, obviously. And in comes brooding and mysterious Sir Thomas Sharp, played by Thomas Hiddleston. I'm just having all kinds of great luck with names tonight. He really catches her fancy, but her father hires a private detective who comes back with all kinds of secrets about them, about Thomas and his sister. He writes them a check, says, why don't you get out of town tomorrow, and before you leave, break my daughter's heart in a way that she'll never recover from, please. Which he does.
What do you dream of? A kind man? A pure soul to be redeemed? A wounded bird you can nourish? Perfection. Perfection has no place in love, Edith. I advise you to return to your ghosts and fancies. The sooner the better. You know precious little of the human heart, or love, or the pain that comes with it. You're nothing but a spoiled child.
The next morning, her father dies. Edith is, of course, heartbroken. Thomas confesses the scheme to get him and his sister out of town. They have a new romance. It's off to the chapel, and then it's off to England to Allerdale Hall, the Sharp family estate, and it's kind of a piece of junk.
We try to maintain the house as best we can, but with the cold and the rain, it's impossible to stop the damp and erosion. And the mines right below, well, the wood is rotting, and the house is sinking.
There's a giant hole in the ceiling, leaves and snow are coming through and piling up on the floor. Thomas tells Edith that the hall is built right on top of a big scarlet clay mine, so it's literally oozing and seeping with blood red clay all the time. When it snows, the clay seeps up through the ground and tinges the snow red. Thus the locals call it Crimson Peak, which definitely catches Edith's attention. From here, there are ghostly goings-on, a couple of murder mysteries for good luck, and we're gonna get into it. But first, let's talk about some of the technical aspects, because those are the real shining stars of this movie. Although Mia Wasikowska gives a great performance, as does Jessica Chastain, Thomas Hiddleston, and the guy who plays the young doctor. Charlie Hunnam, from such films as these. Also Doug Jones as the ghostly Lady Sharp, but that is later.
Thomas!
Let's talk about the color palette, because it's really fantastic. The aesthetic of this movie is just gorgeous. It's just looking at the movie is enjoyable. You don't even have to pay attention to the story or listen to it. But if you do, that will make it that much more enjoyable, of course. But the colors, Edith is always wearing these warm, optimistic colors because she's a warm and optimistic person. She's often like surrounded by butterflies and stuff. Whereas in contrast, the cold Lucille Sharp, the sister of Thomas Sharp, is always wearing these darker blues to reflect her demented personality. And Thomas himself often wears black because he's always shadowed in mystery. He's a very secretive person, and he's haunted by the past. Allerdale Hall is itself a character reflective of the state of mind of the inhabitants, probably particularly Lucille Sharp, who is just a cold and broken person herself. She also is kind of internally falling apart. Soon after Edith goes back to England with her new husband and his sister Lucille, she's getting the impression that she's not being told everything, that things are definitely being hid from her.
Oh, Lucille? When it's convenient, would you mind getting me a copy of the house keys, please?
You don't need one.
I'm sorry.
There are parts of the house that are unsafe. It will take you a few days to familiarize yourself. Then, should you still feel you need them, I'll have copies made.
She starts seeing ghosts pretty much right away, and they are not really out to harm her. They're trying to lead her to all these secrets that are the secrets of Allerdale Hall and the Sharp family. She discovers that Thomas has been married a few times. In fact, he's a widower 3 times over. We as the audience get explicit scenes between Thomas and his sister, who are having a incestuous sexual relationship, by the way. They explicitly talk to each other about their plan to marry Edith and Tom, kill her, and of course take her money because they need to save their failing family fortune, and I assume want to live in peace so that they can continue on with their gross relationship. There are a few themes going on that really drives the movie forward. The first one is the patriarchy, the suppression and oppression of women in the 19th century. From the very beginning of the movie, Edith is being dismissed and overlooked because of her gender. When her manuscript is rejected, she knows that it's not because it's a bad manuscript. She's very confident. She knows she's a talented writer. So when her father gives her this lovely pen as either a congratulations, you got published, or sorry, you didn't get published, here's something to make you feel better kind of gift, she says, I love this, thank you, but I also want to type this manuscript out because my feminine handwriting is giving me away. She likewise is expected to marry an up-and-coming young professional, and to resign herself to the domesticity of marriage and motherhood. Things that she doesn't really say she doesn't want those things, but she seems the type of person, she's very independent, that she has higher aspirations and plans for her own life. Of course, in her heartbreak at her father's death, she marries Thomas, and she resigns herself to this life anyway. Back to England, Thomas and Lucille are slowly poisoning Edith, and this is another great use of their symbolic colors, because Edith, as her spirit is broken more and more because she's learning all these secrets, she's kind of figuring out what their plan is. They're slowly poisoning her, so she's also getting more and more ill, and her colors are fading. Her warm colors that she's wearing are becoming more muted. Obviously, Edith told that publisher, that editor in the beginning of the movie, that the ghosts in her story are just a metaphor for the past, and that is, of course, true with this movie too, because the siblings Sharp definitely have a past. They have a lot of secrets. Like I said, Thomas has been married a few times, and of course he did this so that he could kill these women and take their money. And we come to find out that Lucille also killed their mother. And Lucille is a psychopath. I mean, she's a serial killer. She has little trophies. She takes locks of hair from all the women that she's killed and keeps them in this jewelry box type thing. Anyway, Thomas is catching feelings. He's realizing that he actually does love Edith, and he's trying now to break away from Lucille. We're getting into the third act of the movie here.
Do you love her?
This day had to come. We've been dead for years, Lucille.
You promised.
You and I in this rotting place.
Do you
Look at
love
who we
her
are.
more than me?
Look at what we've become.
You promised you...
And Lucille's not having any of it. So she is completely off her rocker at this point. She's raging, and everybody's kind of trying to get the hell away from her. Poor doctor doesn't really get there. He's injured, and Thomas is trying to get him out of the house before Lucille can finish him off, but she's egging him on. She's like, kill this man, kill the doctor. And Thomas says very quietly to him, you're the doctor, you tell me where. Meaning, where can I stab you that's not going to be immediately fatal for you? Which he does, kind of gets him safely out of the way. Lucille thinks he's dead. She can focus her attention on Thomas and Edith. Thomas, sorry to say, doesn't make it. But that brings us back to the symbolic colors, because you'll see ghosts of different colors throughout the movie. The black ghosts kind of show up to warn Edith. They're tethered to Edith in some way. They're looking out for her. They need her to find out these other things. They're more aggressive ghosts. They're red. And now that Thomas is a ghost, he shows up to stand between Edith and Lucille, and he's all white colored. He's a freed soul. Needless to say, Lucille doesn't make it. And we kind of wrap up the movie with her. She's back at her piano that she plays off and on through the movie, and she is a purple ghost. I don't really know what this means for her. I think she's just a troubled mind and a troubled soul all the way through. This is a fantastic movie. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. It's so worth your time. Just looking at it is great. Just breathing the whole thing in is very, it's it's a cinematic experience that you don't often get because the sets are so well made. The cinematography is so well executed. The costuming is even noteworthy. I mean, how often do you watch a movie and go, damn, those are some nice costumes? But they're really good quality. I mean, everything is just so well executed in this movie. It's kind of remarkable. I think Del Toro and his crew should get a lot more credit for making a fantastic movie. It's not really a scary movie, and it's not supposed to be an especially scary movie. What it does is that it hits all the tropes of the gothic romance genre. They were so often about ghosts of the past, and you know, every Victorian murder mystery revolves around a will or an inheritance in some way. So he hits that note. There's always these derelict mansions, these sprawling estates and stuff like that. He just hits the nail on the head with this movie, and I want to give some proper credit to some of the people who worked on this movie too. So pardon me while I get my readers out. We have Thomas Sanders in set design. We have Kate Hawley in costuming, and cinematographer Dan Lawston. Bang up job, folks. I just love this movie so much. I am an avid reader. I love to read, and I love a good murder mystery too. So, you know, get me a good book and a little solitude and a lot of coffee, which used to be a lot of cigarettes, but now it's a lot of coffee. I'm in my happy place right there. If it's a good murder mystery and there's, you know, Victorian ghosts in a crumbling mansion on top of that, that's just like the sad 90s boy bingo card. It's fantastic. I love to be there. This movie, no notes. Love it. Absolutely love it. Don't let anybody give you shit for watching movies all the time because their world sucks. My name is Matt Eddy. I hope to see you for Portal B proper later in the month. Leah and I had some friends over to watch a classic B movie. So keep your eyes open for that. If you're not into the B movies and you're here for the horror reviews, I will see you next month on $2 Horror. So long.